Hello and welcome to the third installment of Destination Context. I'm Allie and then I'm here with Blaise and we're going to walk you through our 2025 holiday advertising playlist.
Yes, 'tis the season for context.
Tis the
That's
season.
what I've been saying.
I like that. That should be our episode title.
Cool. And so what we wanted to start off with was what we looked at Silverpush. So Silverpush has our contextual intelligence engine. We analyzed billions of YouTube views, and then we sorted them based on our contextual targeting technology. All of which to say is we looked at a lot of views, and we saw what people were looking at.
A lot of data.
And we've been doing this over the past few months, and the first thing we wanted to really look at is what is the growth picture? What's the landscape of retail and shopping content? So we've looked at over 700 billion views across retail and shopping content categories. This is how our AI actually sorts things. So it's identified the contextual signals. It's found that there's over 700 billion views to kind of analyze and look through. This actually represents 54% growth year over year compared to 2024, which is pretty astronomical if you think about it.
Yeah.
I actually think this is probably a lot of YouTube Shorts kind of juicing the numbers. YouTube Shorts has been skyrocketing. And it's a very broad category, as we'll get into, but what we wanted to really understand when it comes to the holidays is how people go to YouTube and use YouTube as a source for research, making decisions, comparing products, and what are they ultimately watching. There's a lot of interesting stats that we found here from third parties, like 93% of YouTube viewers do say the platform provides the information they need to make a purchase. That's from start to finish. They can pretty much find out what they want to buy based on that. The research does actually help them make those decisions, so they end up spending more a lot of the time. And there's all sorts of different ways people make these decisions during the holidays. They might watch unboxing videos. They might just watch makeup tutorials to figure out what the thing looks like on someone else's face before they get it for their face. They might do DIY decor ideas, so that's kind of the holiday prep, or just how to host a great holiday party. And so when we kind of boiled it down when it comes to retail and shopping content, we actually looked at the growth numbers for this as well. So you can see across the board, there's been these huge spikes year over year across shopping vlogs, product reviews, tech unboxings, fashion hauls. Live shopping streams is a really interesting one because it's a bit of a different format when it comes to YouTube interaction. And then you have other things like the tutorials and the listicles and roundups. All of this kind of, as we analyzed it, shows different ways that advertisers could actually think about targeting the right type of content. Allie, I don't know if you have anything to add on this stuff.
Yeah, this I think is really interesting. I think it also shows the trend in people relying more on creator content for information and reviews and trusting influencers more than brands themselves. So contextual advertising is a nice way to still show up in these conversations without either having to, have a sponsored influencer or, showing up a little bit more naturally in these environments.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because a lot of what YouTube does is it creates that ecosystem for creators of all kinds, but brands can't really keep track of how many creators, how many types of videos. And so by looking at the context instead of the creator, you're actually able to enter all of those ecosystems at once, especially if you target down based on the types of content that are best for your brand.
It's also nice that it follows the user's journey from, getting a product, finding a product, to then using the product itself.
True.
So say, like, it covers the people who are looking for the right, lip gloss to give a friend, and then it's the friend who's using that makeup item or whatever to figure out the best way to use it with their routine, or even, you're figuring out the best Apple Watch to give a family member, and then they're going on YouTube and they're figuring out how to use this Apple Watch. So it's kind of cool to get everybody throughout any part of their journey.
Yeah, that's true. And like we talked about, for all the fans who watch Destination Context episode 2, when it comes to travel and contextual signals, someone who's looking up how do I pack my bag or things to do in Paris, that's a high intent search, which is what we consider it. Same here. If they're looking at tutorials, they're probably going to buy something.
Right.
Product reviews. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways to think about intent when it comes to context, and that's really where you get interesting differences in performance too.
Yeah, I love that. Great point.
So moving on to just kind of how we've seen things grow. Again, there's been growth across these categories. billions of views, and billions of plays almost, right? So all across the board, we've seen this growth, especially as the holiday season ramps up. YouTube watch time does spike. People are looking at things more. They're trying to do their research, like Ali said, and they're interacting with all sorts of different types of content. What I found most interesting when it comes to these types of categories is when you look at it from almost a product category level, right? And if you look at what's growing fastest, it's actually fashion and accessories, beauty and wellness, and even home and decor, which means people are actually looking for things that are a bit more premium. It's not always just techies, even though you see electronics and gadgets up there and it's the highest. It's not actually the fastest growing category anymore. Yeah. And I found that pretty interesting. Even the fact there's a luxury category at all, you don't really picture, fancy people looking at fancy watches on YouTube, but where else are they going to really want to do in-depth research? So what I think that's the best representation here is really just the fact that it's all retail, right? When we think about YouTube, a lot of the time you might think about watching films or clips or YouTube
music videos.
Huge.
Yes, totally.
But this really emphasizes the sheer scale of the retail and the e-commerce portion of YouTube.
Completely.
And the growth. And
how much people could spend hours watching videos on just one gadget or just one wellness product. It's pretty incredible, the deep dives and the rabbit holes that you can get on in YouTube. And I feel like it's almost harder, or it's easier to do that on YouTube than any other platform because you're not distracted. It's a full screen environment. You are watching all of this information at one time. You're not, I don't know, playing on your phone and swiping up and swiping left and all that.
Right. That's true. And it is just another showcase of the high intent versus low intent viewers.
Totally.
Cool. So moving on, the last piece that we had as a kind of overview as we were analyzing all these YouTube views, we actually created a contextual framework for the average holiday shoppers, and we found 6 different personas based on their viewing behaviors. So number 1 is the bargain hunters. That was the most common persona. They watched a collective 57 billion views across shopping haul and deal hunting videos. This is the type of content they gravitate toward. It's a really interesting statement on people figuring out, how do I get the best deal? Where do I get the most affordable stuff for the holidays? And that kind of mentality. Second most popular on the right side here is research mavens. So these are the people that are taking their time. They're in the consideration phase. They could go either way on a lot of stuff, but we still see over 50 billion views across these tutorials, comparison guides, and product breakdowns just within that holiday context. Luxury seekers, it's a smaller crowd, but probably more high intent, perhaps higher value. And that's over 30 billion views still, just for things that are a bit more premium gift reviews, and just ways to target this with context becomes really interesting really fast as you think about these personas.
Yeah. I like something that I really like about this slide too is that each of these categories, it goes beyond sort of a demographic or an age. I think that when we talk a lot about shopping or personas, this really boils down what is consistent across a lot of different people, rather than diving in too deeply. And so something to mention here is also that these bargain hunters, luxury seekers, and research mavens, they might be shopping for gifts because it's the holiday season, or they might be looking to stock up on something for themselves. So you're reaching both, people who are all over the shopping and holiday spirit for, the purchase that they've been waiting to make, and also the purchases that they're making for other people.
That's true. Yeah, good point. Yeah. And it really is universal that way. And I just think this is important data for anyone in the category that's trying to reach people. And so moving on to the smaller categories, we found 3: impulse buyers, brand loyalists, and swayable shoppers.
Which are you?
Yeah, probably an impulse buyer, if I'm honest with myself.
Just a lot of Temu purchases on your
yeah. Well, and this is a funny thing where people are watching content like quick gift lists.
Yeah.
I think they're figuring out ideas on what to buy for people.
Yeah.
It's an interesting category because it's probably a little less competitive. You've got brand loyalists. These are people who are very attached to brands. They're very the view count. If you see this, it's over 100 billion views on these brands. Yeah, but actually it's a lot of the same people, like you just said. They're going down this rabbit hole of just one type of product, one brand.
And I wonder how much of that is aspirational viewing or influencing, because I've seen some videos for different campaigns that we've run where it's like someone will be
Someday
going through
they'll buy this
6
thing.
different luxury bags that they were given for their
And they buy
birthday or something
nothing,
like that, right? And it's like, how much of that is really, but like brand loyalist, I think, is so interesting because I mean, I think that's such a great example with like Apple right now. Apple just released their new iOS and their new line of iPhones.
It's probably all Apple stuff on this.
And it's like how many people in the world have probably given their parent or someone an Apple product just every year as the new one comes out. So I definitely see that angle for tech specifically.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that like the way we identified brand loyalists too is the creator collaboration. So someone might be following a creator. The creator is really loyal to a specific brand or a brand ambassador. So that does make sense because creators do associate themselves with brands like that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then of course the final category is swayable shoppers. It's interesting here where again we see social proof and reviews playing a big role. They're desperate to make a decision. They want to figure out what they're about to do. That is like the most high intent shopper in a way because you're getting them right as they're about to make that decision. And you can really sway them, which is why they're called swayable shoppers, with the right ad at the right time in that sense.
No, that's great. And it's great to get in front of somebody if they're watching, you know, a video of the top 8 something. It's great if your ad is for some reason not in that top 8 or your product is not in that top 8 to have your ad in that video, right? Like that's a huge help just to get in front of people as they're doing their research, you know, on YouTube or wherever else.
And we've got 3 interesting examples here from holiday pushes. The first was actually a campaign on YouTube Shorts. It was a chocolate brand that was really trying to reach just YouTube Shorts viewers during one of these key holidays. It was a festive season. So they targeted food and snacking moments, chocolates, desserts, anything that was really just sugary treats, more or less.
Nice.
Then they also looked at celebration and lifestyle content, which I think is a pretty interesting angle, you know, because this is kind of getting into that idea that these holidays are always based on family gatherings, these types of moments, and then really the sentimental value. So like friends sharing a meal, nice surprises. So you're kind of almost getting that brand boost of associating the brand with something that was kind of heartwarming in general.
Yeah, completely. I've definitely seen that with other campaigns where when I think that's something we talk about a lot with recommended creative components, and it's so important to have a connection with your audience. And I don't know, I feel like the holidays are a very easy way to like trigger nostalgia, trigger connection with people. And so that is definitely something that we see really help in this season.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with shorts, like people are just flying through those things. So the fact that we saw like a higher click-through rate than the benchmark is, that's pretty good.
And it's such a great reach play, especially when you're just trying to get in front of as many people as possible.
Yeah, we've definitely found it's more like efficient when it comes to reach, even though the VTR is sometimes like 1%.
Yeah. And it's like, you know.
The YouTube Shorts environment. Another interesting example here focused on Christmas. It was an athletic wear brand. And of course, you know, when you're trying to just reach those types of viewers during the Christmas season, first stop is getting in front of your competitors. In this case, you have the client was targeting Nike and Adidas, but it's also teams, so like activewear people, athletes, people who are watching this type of content, looking at brand ambassadors that were associated with the brand as well. And then just really making sure your content is hitting the audiences that are watching things like kind of like concerning all types of sports activities.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you look, we can actually divide the view through rate for influencers versus other things. And this is an interesting play when it comes to just branding during the holidays and getting in front of anyone who might buy, but also people who are watching the influencers themselves.
Yeah, I love it. I love this, like thinking about what are the big holiday moments, like say football on Thanksgiving Day, and then figuring out how can you take advantage of that without having to do some crazy big sponsorship or takeover. You're just showing up where people are talking about it, or if somebody sees a really cool boot on a football player, they're going to go look it up, and then your ad could be among that research. So it's nice to surround the moment without having to like spend so much money to surround the moment.
Yeah, I know. That's the nice part is like you can be part of the Super Bowl on your own terms.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And just one final one is this major retailer case study. So this is an interesting one because you get higher efficiency and higher view-through rate. So we saw over 30% higher video completion rate than the benchmark, but also 30% lower cost because it was just a more efficient way of targeting. And I think this is the most holiday-centric case study we have here in a way, because it was very well thought out. It was planned to just get in front of these kind of family influencers, gifting influencers, as well as talk show hosts, anything with holiday in it, basically, and positive holiday connotations. Then focusing really on holiday content in general, just targeting things like if there's a sleigh bell in it, which I thought was pretty interesting. Christmas trees, Christmas meals, gingerbread houses, and holiday decorations. Oh my gosh, yeah. And then what I find interesting from a retailer play here is that they kind of aligned with other retailer brands and also just tried to push the brand, like push the ads in front of brands that they knew were available in the store. So you're almost saying, okay, here's the ad trying to drive someone to the retail store when someone actually watches something like Sephora, which they could potentially buy at the retailer. Yeah.
I love that. I think this is what's so unique to YouTube, right, as opposed to any other social media, is that when someone is looking at their holiday content on YouTube, they're looking at, okay, how do I decorate my home in a cute way? And I need step-by-step instruction. How do I create a holiday cocktail? What's the best way to do something? Right. They're trying to learn how to be a better host in a way. And like on Instagram or other platforms, you can see it and you can absorb the information, but it's not necessarily instructive in the same way that YouTube is pretty consistently instructive. So I think that that's also a way that it shines for holidays. It goes beyond just being an influencer. It's like an influencer and a trainer and all this other stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Awesome. And so now you might be wondering, how do I do all that? And so Ali has put together a few different frameworks just to show how Silverpush does it. And before she gets started, just to kind of emphasize, Silverpush has over 1 billion videos just in our contextual library, and it's constantly adding more and more videos. We're processing over 1 million videos a day across 8 million channels. And what we really specialize in is this type of unique targeting framework. It's a multivariable framework, which means that you can have a bunch of different things that create this way to target the exact audience you want. And then on the flip side, the AI engine, as we saw through this report, is pulling all of these signals to understand, okay, what is this video about? Is this the best thing for the ad and the objective? So Ali, take it away on some of these frameworks.
Yeah, so for these frameworks, we've essentially gone from broad to specific. So the way that we're able to pull our insights is we'll have about 5 tactical segments, and then each one of those tactical segments will have another 5 broad contextual cues within those. And so this is just a snapshot of how you would set one of these campaigns up. But so for this example, for a retail brand, like say an Abercrombie or something, some tactical segments that we'd recommend surrounding would be the holidays and gifting, shopping, and then maybe also competitor brands that people are looking to for similar gifts or similar deals and so on. Then we could take it a step further, and within the competition category, define the major retailers that we would want to hit within that. Within the gifting category, look at gifting ideas and gift guides, since we know those are everywhere over the holidays. And then we could also look at holiday preparation and activities as well. So I think that was like something that really interested me last year when I was pulling together or analyzing where we had been showing our campaigns, and it was just so interesting to see the amount of, holiday budgeting, how do I buy gifts for my kids over the holiday, all these things that there's just truly hours of content on YouTube surrounding holiday preparation, and from everything from like how do I afford to prep for the holidays to how do I find the best gift that could ever be out there. So it's really cool to, especially if you have even a broader retailer like somewhere that anybody might walk into, like a Target, it's amazing that, or if your gift is being sold at somewhere like a Target, it's really impressive to be able to surround everything from all sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then as we look, at the deepest level of precise cues, which are pretty specific to what our contextual intelligence engine can pull out of these videos, But essentially we're seeing, what are the top gifts of 2025? DIY gifts, hosting over the holidays, gift wrapping, tutorials maybe, and then like something that's iconic for the holidays, like an elf on the shelf.
Yeah,
if you really
right.
want to like get into, what are people
Yeah.
looking at for this season. So that's just one example for retail.
Yeah, exactly. And I always think precise cues is funny because it's usually proper nouns is the way I think of it. Because if you want to be in front of Lego content or something like that, you're really able to do so much with the precise cues to customize where your videos end up.
And what I like too is that it's not just like the Elf on the Shelf channel. If Elf on the Shelf has a channel, I do not know. But it's like someone talking about what were my top 5 Elf on the Shelf hidings this season or something, or like it's just mentioned in normal videos. It's not just the channel of the product. Yeah, cool. Then for tech, definitely top of mind right now. Love to look here at tech trends, top tech gifts, and then also gaming, which we know is such a peak category. I think especially like so much gaming stuff is coming out towards the end of the year and then also the start of next year. It's a very, I think, easy gift to get for a gamer in your life. And for the best, for like taking that a step further, looking at contextual cues, we can look at the best tech gifts for 2025. So that would be like, the top 8 e-reader reviews and so on.
Nice.
New Apple products, we see here, this new iPhone line. And then also like say winter game releases or, winter console releases.
Right.
And then, looking at more precise cues, like if you have someone in your life, like maybe a dad who loves the next tech product, you can have gifts for dads as part of your precise cues, or technology podcasts, which are of course going to be going off in this time period with their recommendations for 2026 purchases and also holiday purchases. Then also reaching top tech influencers who are doing those unboxing videos like we were talking about. And then down to the specific logos of certain products being mentioned in videos.
And I think the other part here is if you want to be in front of like a really popular game, you could do something like target Roblox, target Fortnite, or game companies like Epic Games. We just saw a campaign that was doing that. It's such a funny segment where tech is gaming, but not really at this point. Like you have different ways to do it, but here you could cover your bases and really understand, okay, do gamers actually respond best to tech purchases, or is it more people who are like buying for their parents?
Yeah, and like if you see some fascinating crossover in your audience segment, like for instance, if you're trying to sell the new FIFA in 2026 and you want to reach soccer fans because you know that they're going to be interested in FIFA, you can include that as part of your precision cues. So that's really, I don't know, that's really, there's just so many different ways to think about it.
That's a good point. Yeah, like really get somewhere where it's not everywhere where tech people might be, but you're also hitting a different type of audience who might respond to it.
Yeah, completely. When we look at alcohol surrounding the holidays, we see a lot of crossover with decor and holiday themes and throwing parties and getting people together. I think something that's going to be a big trend this year is probably non-alcoholic cocktails too. And that content is also going to be all over YouTube.
Good point.
And so that's definitely something to think about, but essentially just the fun and beverage category. So in the tactical segments, we're seeing social gathering, holiday gifting, holiday cocktails. I think when I think back to like any white elephant or office gifting thing I've ever contributed in, there's always been a bottle of alcohol somewhere in there. So can certainly expect that to be on people's lists. And then we have holiday themes, moments, recipes and drinks, beer brands just generally. And then when we want to get more precise, we can get even down into like the true details of pumpkin spice or, vodka or something that you want to like, a cider cocktail, whatever is really going to relate to your brand and how people use this. Like for instance, if there was a gin brand, we could have a precise cues, one of them be tonic or French 75s, and so you're really showing up where it's related.
And this is interesting because you don't necessarily have to be an alcohol brand. You could use this framework to reach people who are probably already thinking about parties or socializing, social events. So that's the cool part about context as you try to think through your segments.
Yeah, love it. All right, last one, beauty, everyone's favorite. Beauty is such a huge category, as Blaise talked about earlier. It is massive on YouTube, and it's also really big when it comes to not only that tutorial side of things, but the advice side of things, because you're actually seeing somebody, usually unedited, and like a 10 to 20 minute long video, putting the makeup on their face and seeing how it sits, and there's so much detail in there, and you're really getting the live reaction. So it's definitely a huge space for YouTube. And around the holidays, we're seeing beauty and skincare segments. We could do a lifestyle and culture segments, holiday gifting. Can contextually context everything from your drugstore beauty brands to what's going to be on sale for Black Friday to, you know, the Givenchy makeup of, you know, the luxury seekers, and so on. Then for precise cues, we're even able to get down into the detail of holiday nail art, holiday makeup tutorials, gift hauls, gift guides, you know, last minute gifts, and then specific brands that you might see at a Sephora or at, you know, a CVS. Yeah. So there's really a lot that can fit into this category, and I think especially just knowing how much like Drunk Elephant has blown up for Gen Alpha and Gen Z, and like if you're trying to figure out what can you get the makeup lover in your life, you might be going to YouTube to say, okay, what's the coolest beauty trend this year? Oh, this person has millions of followers, let's see what they have to say. Yep. I'm sure it's not too far off. So definitely just a great resource for gifters and those looking to buy for themselves.
Awesome. Well, yeah, and that's pretty much it for the Destination Context episode 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely let us know if you have any other questions or things that you want to think about for a holiday framework.
Send us your ideas.
Yeah, I'm sure this will be viral on LinkedIn in no time.
Yeah.
So.
What are you buying this holiday season?
It's 'tis the season for context.
Yeah, always. 'Tis always the season for context.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right, thank you. Bye.